everyone, welcome back. Back with a book haul, and this is a accumulation of books over the past several weeks. Books that I ordered online, I got at a thrift store, I got at a used bookstore, library sale, and at work. So, yeah, I've been just waiting for kind of the last few ones to show up before I went ahead and filmed this. So we're just going to kind of jump right in. We've got some packages to unwrap here for you. The first package I received from Alicia over at AM Writer, and I'll put a link to her channel down below. She was watching my unfinished book series tag and saw that I read book 1 in the series, and she had the ARC copy of book 2 and offered to send it to me. So I offered to do an ARC swap. So I sent her an ARC that I had that I finished reading, and she sent me this one. So I'm going to go ahead and open that. Oops. Or try to. Okay, and ooh, that looks pretty cool. That's Outpost by Aguirre, and Enclave was a book I read for the YT Book Club, which I actually really liked, and I'm looking forward to checking this one out. So thank you so much, Alicia, for sending that to me. I can't wait to jump into this. It looks awesome. And the next two books I received from the Book Depository. So these are books just to sort of complete series that I own. I'm trying to collect this author's books, and I've been having a hard time. I'm not sure if it's the one that matches or they did a cover change, but at least it's hardcover like the rest of them. This is Something Deadly This Way Comes by Kim Harrison, and is the third book in her Madison Avery series. The first one is Once Dead, Twice Shy, and then the second book was Early to Death, Early to Rise. And I've read the series. It's very well written. Like I said, I'm a big Kim Harrison fan, and this is her kind of foray into YA. Still looks a bit different than the covers I have, but oh well, it's the closest I can get to it. And the other package from the Book Depository, which doesn't have a tab. Alright, here we go. Yes, yes, yes. I have been waiting for this book in hardcover for like so long. You know, one of my favorite series. This is the Hollows series from Kim Harrison. This is Dead Witch Walking in hardcover. When these first came out, they were strictly paperback, and I think it was maybe the 4th or 5th book before they finally started coming out in hardcover, but they're kind of re-released through EOS, which I think is a division of HarperCollins. Yeah, it's a division of imprint of HarperCollins. So still have a couple more to get to complete it, but I'm so happy to finally have my hands on book 1 again, so yay for that. Oh, and I got a bookmark. Let me get Story of Foods. Okay, interesting. I wonder if the other one had a bookmark. Yay, another bookmark. These are fun. This is Let's Get Baking, Recent Trends. How strange. Oh, there's something about zombies on the back. Ah, cool. Okay, those are my packages. So on to the books that I purchased first at a thrift store. I came across two classics that I have not read that I really wanted to read. The first one is Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. It's sort of set in a utopian future. Heard a lot about it. Looking forward to reading that one. And the other one, which I don't really know much about at all, is John Knowles' A Separate Peace. All I know is, like it says, it's set during World War II at a boys' boarding school in New England. And they're both really, really thin classics, so hopefully I'll be able to get to those this year. And the third book I picked up at the thrift store was one I had seen on Vebke's channel at One Book, One Review. And that is The Gargoyle, and it's by Andrew Davidson. And it's got a super cool cover. I love the way it looks like it's been burnt, and the pages are curling around the edges. And there's this really cool kind of sculpted face on the cover. And it says, it's a mesmerizing story of one man's descent into personal hell and his quest for salvation. On a dark road in the middle of the night, a car plunges into a ravine. The driver survives the crash, but his injuries confine him to a hospital burn unit. There, the mysterious Marianne Engel, a sculptress of grotesques, enters his life. She insists they were lovers in medieval Germany when he was a mercenary and she was a scribe in the monastery of Engelfall. As she spins the story of their past lives together, the man's disbelief falters. Soon, even the impossible can no longer be dismissed. Yeah, Becky actually raved about this book, said it was awesome. I believe Danny over at Pen to Paper also said this was really, really good. So I trust both their opinions, and when I saw this sitting on the shelf, I just had to grab it. So, yeah. The next bunch of books I picked up at a used bookshop. This one I was kind of going through the horror section and was really surprised to find it. And this is Chuan. And it's by, I'm going to slatter this one here, Kei Ohishi. And this is actually a novelization of a movie version. So instead of being it's a book based on a movie instead of a movie based on a book. And in America, the movie was called The Grudge. So I think this is The Grudge 2. That was the one with the boy, which really creeped me out. So I'm looking forward to reading this and see if it scares me as much as the movie did. The next two books are by the same author. The first one is the second book kind of in a series, and it follows The Shadow of the Wind, and this is The Angel's Game, and it's by Carlos Ruiz Zafon. I've read this book before. I also saw a copy of the third book, which is The Prisoner of Heaven, and I'm really looking forward to read this one. I just hadn't gotten around to picking up a copy, and what's really interesting about this is in the inside of this book, the third book, it says, The Cemetery of Forgotten Books. The Prisoner of Heaven is part of a cycle of novels set in the literary universe of the Cemetery of Forgotten Books, of which The Shadow of the Wind and The Angel's Game are the first two installments. Although each work within the cycle presents an independent, self-contained tale, they are all connected through characters and storylines, creating thematic and narrative links. Each individual installment in the Cemetery of Forgotten Books can be read in any order, enabling the reader to explore the labyrinth of stories along different paths, which woven together lead into the heart of the narrative. So I thought that was kind of interesting. It almost makes it sound like they're kind of more companion novels to each other rather than a strict series, which I did kind of notice that when I read book 1 and then book 2. But now it's been so long since I've read any of them, so I'm trying to debate whether I should start from Shadow of the Wind, then read this one, and then this one, or if it's like the author says, does it matter, and I could explore it from any angle. So I'm not really sure what to do with that one yet, but I'm just really happy to find copies of both of those. The next one I picked up is, I have book 1 in the series. This is book 6 in the series, and because they're British editions, I'm just kind of snatching them up as I see them, and I will eventually get around to collecting them all where I can start reading the series. And this is Derek Landy's Skulduggery Pleasant, and this is book 6, Deathbringer. He's a detective, and yes, he is a skeleton, and this is apparently his companion through the stories. I forgot her name. Valkyrie, yes. They're just really gorgeous looking covers. They show the first 6 books on the back here. Like I said, these are the British covers, so they're kind of hard to get a hold of, but I've heard really, really good things about this series, so I'm hoping to at least get a couple of books before I try to dive into them. The next book is by an author I first heard about on Danny's channel over at Pen to Paper blog, and she mentioned that his book, The Radleys, was one of her absolute favorites, and I happened to find that book at a library sale for $1 recently, and when I was going through this used bookshop, I happened to spot this one by the author, and it is The Dead Fathers Club. And it just has this awesome cover, this little boy here, and you see little ghosts kind of rising up from the lights here. And it's described as a hilarious and touching novel narrated by an 11-year-old boy who is visited by his father's ghost. Philip Noble has a big problem. His dad, who was killed in a car accident, appears as a bloodstained ghost at his own funeral and introduces Philip to the Dead Fathers Club. The club, whose members have all been murdered, gathers outside the Castle and Falcon, the local pub that Philip's family owns and lives above. His dad's ghost tells him that the murderer was his own brother, Philip's uncle, Alan, and urges Philip to avenge his death. So right away you're getting that, Hamlet, Shakespeare kind of feel to it. So there's an interesting twist on that. So that right away made me want to snatch it up. It says, at first Philip resists, but when he realizes that Uncle Alan has designs on his mother and the family pub, well, there you go, Philip knows that something must be done. But this avenging business turns out to be a much bigger job than Philip anticipated, especially when he is caught up by the usual distractions of adolescence, a pretty girl, wayward friends, school bullies, and his own self-doubt. So definitely a twist on Hamlet, so it sounds really, really cool. I can't wait to get into that one. So The next book I picked up at this used bookshop is actually one I already owned in hardcover, but for some reason I'm really drawn to this paperback, so I'll probably sell off my hardcover. And it's Graveminder by Melissa Marr. It just has a captivating story of the living, the dead, and the curse that binds them. And about a town's undertaker. It doesn't really give a good description on this. It did more so on the hardcover, but when I read the description on the hardcover, it sounded really, really good. So, yeah, I really love this cover. There's just something about it. You know, like the thorns and the roses and stuff on there, so I picked it up. The next 3 books I got at my local library. They're having the Friends of Library sale. I love those sales. They are dangerous, though, because they're every Saturday. It's terrible. So I came across this one paperback, which I was just really happy to see. I'm trying to get the 3 books. I have read them either or listened to the audios or rented it from the library, but I finally have my own copy of book 1. This is A House Called Awful End, and it's part 1 of the Eddie Dickens trilogy, and it's by Philip Ardagh, and it's just a really delightful, young, kind of middle grade book. Very hilarious. I think it's sort of like the Lemony Snicket books. And they have really nice illustrations throughout it. Kind of remind me of Edward Gorey's drawings. Really quirky looking characters. And like I said, they're throughout the book. It's just a really good story. I think I've already posted like reviews on these books. But yeah, found book 1. Couldn't find 2 or 3 yet. And then for $1, I found book 8 in the House of Night series. This is Awakened. $1. Couldn't pass it up. Now I have like a whole bunch of these books. I have yet to read one of them, but I don't think I've spent more than like $1 for any of these. Just happened to find them at the right place. Got a really nice. I noticed it's got a really nice cover on the inside too. It's nicely detailed. And when I was looking at the inside cover, I noticed the inside dust jacket. I wasn't expecting that the book came with a 6-pack. Pretty nice. So I went back and looked at some of the other ones, and they do the same thing, so I didn't know there was like a poster inside. Excuse me. And the last one I got at the library sale was Libba Bray's A Great and Terrible Beauty. Don't know too much about this other than it's set during the Victorian age. It does sound like it's a bit supernatural aspects to it, and yeah, I mean, I like Beauty Queens, and what was the other book I just read by her? Oh my gosh, blanked out. Oh, duh. The Diviners. Hello. Yeah, so when I saw this one, I thought I'm going to snatch it up and pick it up, and this was only just, I think this was less than $5 too, so yeah, good deal on that. And the next 3 books I picked up at Barnes & Noble. And one was just a book I want to reread after having read Thorn Abbey, which I reviewed recently on this channel. And you saw this in the review. It was a copy of Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. It's just a really great kind of romantic suspense adult book, and really, really good story. Looking forward to rereading that one again. I've heard a lot of great things about this particular book. This is In the Shadow of Blackbirds by Kat Winters. When I first kind of just glimpsed at the cover, I mean, I don't know, something about the way she's dressed reminded me of the 1920s, and again, with Libba Bray's book, The Diviners, I'm not a big fan of the 1920s, so none of that really intrigued me, but then I heard people talking that it was sort of horror and ghostly, and I took a closer look at it. And I'm like, oh, yes, there are some, like, ghostly images in the back there, and then she's wearing these goggles that look like it's something like steampunk almost. It's pretty weird. And I started reading a little bit more into the book. It says, in a city filled with the dead and dying, while a nightmarish war rages halfway across the world, the grieving look for answers in photographs and seances. It's 1918, San Diego, and a girl who doesn't believe in spirits steps off the train and into a new life. The book's full of these really cool photos from like during the war, and some of them, again, have this really creepy ghostly. There's like a seance going on, and some hand coming up in there, so I definitely had to pick this up. The more I looked at it, it sounded more interesting. On the back of here it says, someone was with me. I had experienced that sensation before, in the dark, fresh out of a nightmare. The belief that something or someone was staring at me from across the room in the shadows of my furniture. In the past, the stranger always ended up being a doll or a chair reflecting moonlight, but this time I was positive someone would be there if I checked. Just turn around and look, I told myself. I squeezed my eyes shut and counted silently to 3. 1, 2, 3. I flipped myself over, opened my eyes, and found a dead man next to me on the bed. This is cool. Sounds awesome. Yeah, so that's a good kind of horror pick, something I've been looking to kind of build and read a bit more of. The very last book is a graphic novel. I'd seen this quite a few times, kind of passed it up, thought about it again, saw it on another person's channel, and it's, yeah, I really do want to read this. I'm kind of intrigued by it. And it's Mark Siegel's Sailor Twain, or The Mermaid in the Hudson. It's quite a chunky graphic novel. Got like a mermaid on the back there. But, you can't really see it's the same kind of image of a mermaid inside the cover. And I just like the illustrations. I like that it's, this is hat. That it's just the black and white, and I really like the looks of it. It just sounds really cool. Like when it's not too cluttered, but it seemed like a pretty interesting story. It says, a century ago, aboard a steamboat plying the Hudson River, Captain Twain rescues a wounded mermaid from the waters, carries her to his cabin, and nurses her back to health. Meanwhile, Lafayette, the ne'er-do-well owner of the ship, paces the decks. He's beset by secrets of his own. He may be no stranger to mermaids himself. And ashore, the enigmatic C.G. Beaverton, an author whose real identity has been guarded for years, decides to come out of anonymity with a startling new book, one that may hold answers for both Twain and Lafayette. Winding its way up and down the mysterious and temperamental Hudson Valley and across the backdrop of New York's Gilded Age, Sailor Twain is a bewitching romance, a novel of rivers, magic, mermaids, and the great mystery of human nature. In the suspended world of the ship, lives intersect and collide. Passengers are not who they seem, and a doomed man will finally be lured by a mermaid to a reckoning in the river's murky depths. Sounds really good. So I'm glad I finally picked it up, and I still want to kind of get my way through Death Note, and I have not quit on that series by any means. Like I said, I'm just sort of slowly working my way through those. I'm on book 4, the bind-up of book 4 of Death Note. So as soon as I kind of get through that one, I may decide to pick this one up and take a little break from that. Don't know yet, but yeah, it sounds really intriguing. But anyway, that's my 17 book haul. Hope you found something that sounds intriguing to you, and hope you enjoyed it. And thanks for watching. Bye-bye.